Let me tell you a story. The dinosaurs ruled our planet for millions of years. And yet they died out almost overnight. Why? The evidence suggests that a meteor fell to Earth bearing an alien bacteria.
Plague? Is that what this whole thing is about?
Prevention.
And you think this meteor brought some kind of a killer germ?
It's something I've expected and prepared for all my life.
Well, your meteor brought something, all right. But if it's a germ, it's the biggest son of a bitch you've ever seen.
Not too long ago, guys. Well, not God, probably a couple years. We did the original. Was it 1958? I think it's 58. The Blob with Steve McQueen. We all liked to appreciate it for what it was, and it's what it's done for the horror industry. A lot of copycats have come out since. We can even put The Thing on there. John Carpenter's The Thing, for taking some of its effects and so forth. It was definitely groundbreaking for the time. It was silly and hokey. Don't get me wrong, but it was the 50s. Pretty much everything was silly and hokey.
50s B movies.
It's kind of like our 80s.
Yeah. And that's okay, too,
But the one thing I always remembered about it, and I sang the theme song from the original, and it's by Burt Bacharach, who's obviously a household name now. And it was The Blob by the Five Blobs. And it was like one paragraph. It's like, beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps, glides and slides across the floor, right through the door. And all around the wall, a splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob.
Elaborate stuff.
There it is. But in this one, we get some 80s hair band called Alien. Mm-hmm. And it's completely different. All it is it's called Brave New Love. On that hair band kind of cheese.
Pure 80s cheese, yeah.
Now, the reason I brought up this theme song, the band Alien sounded a lot like a band called Dokken. And Dokken was a decent band in the 80s. Wrote some cool stuff. But what they are also known for is the theme song Dream Warrior. From Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors. Probably the
Directed by the same guy?
Directed by the same guy, Chuck Russell. You see how I did that?
Yep.
Pretty clever.
Yep.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Did you catch who wrote this film?
Frank Darabont?
Yes, another household name. We talk about Frank a lot. He does a lot of horror, some really great dramas, including a little film you might have heard called Shawshank Redemption. A wonderful film called The Majestic with Jim Carrey. The Green Mile, The Mist, created The Walking Dead. Pretty impressive little resume. Him and Chuck were good friends. Chuck started as a producer, and they both met, I believe, on the set of an underrated little slasher film, and we will definitely be getting to it someday. Hell Night. So there you go.
Plenty of connection, sir.
Yeah, it comes full circle. Chuck Russell, I talk about underrated directors, and this guy's had quite a few hits, and yet has just kind of disappeared. Again, we talk about how directors are becoming more guns for hire now.
Yeah.
So they don't seem to like the ones that have staying power or have a household name, I guess you can say, or some street cred. Because at the end of the day, the director is the man in charge on a set. The producer is the man who sits in the office and makes sure the bills are paid and the money's not, it's not the budget's coming into is on time and not going over budget. And it's become the opposite lately, and so we're losing the household name director. Now it's all about the producer, Jason Blum.
Yeah, I think directors possibly. I mean, I can't speak for Chuck Russell and the rest, but I think in general terms, a lot of these directors are becoming jaded with the Hollywood machine.
Yeah, and so I think that's why we're losing these guys. Oh, I remember him. Well, he doesn't do much. Just a lot of TV. A lot of these veteran directors went on to see, and they still do a lot of TV, which is great. But just do some B movies here and there. I mean, Chuck Russell, besides being the producer of Hell Night and a couple of the horror films in the 80s, he's also a screenwriter with Frank Darabont. He did one of my favorite Schwarzenegger films, Eraser, which I thought was really fun. He did Scorpion King, which was a big hit.
That's right. With The Rock.
With The Rock. And The Mask was a huge hit for Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And Dream Warriors. I mean, that's a pretty good little,
resume. Yeah. No, the Dream Warriors, I loved Dream Warriors as a kid, and I think it's definitely one of the strongest of the Elm Street sequels. But we'll get to those at some point, I would like to think.
Yeah, we'll probably do what we did with the Friday 13th, do 2 and 1, because there's a lot of them. And to be pleasant surprise, most of them are crap. But I think I'm the only one who liked the New Nightmare. The one where it was that was definitely it was like the prototype for Scream almost. Yep. And Wes Craven's next film would be
Scream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have my coffee here. We're doing this in the morning for y'all, so you're welcome.
Yeah.
And Count Dracula here, who I'm a podcast with, usually goes to bed around this time.
I usually crawl into my coffin around this time after working through the night and also hunting people to suck their blood and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. That's why we're usually late, because he hasn't fed.
Yeah. Well, I have to get up out of my coffin whenever there's no more light outside, or else I would sort of disintegrate
to feed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah. We all have to feed.
Yeah. Now, this movie was tanked. But again, a lot of 80s films have, but they went on to become what they call cult hits.
Yeah.
Cult hits, I will still stick with it, started in the 80s. Yes, you had other ones in the 70s and 60s, but I really do think cult really found its footing in the 80s with movies like, we keep talking about, like A Broken Record, Blade Runner, The Thing, and The Blob would certainly be up there. Now, this was coming out at a time where this kind of stuff was fading out. Body horror / gory goo. And I believe it or not, I mean that gory goo. We had our little creature features, like little gremlins and critters. Well, we did have this body horror goo kind of stuff. Starting with the film The Stuff. It's a nice little film about consumerism. You should check it out. It's actually quite good. A movie called Street Trash. You had this kind of, and Society would be an example. Yeah. You see a lot of Society in this. The Brian Yunza teams. So it blended near the end of the 80s, a lot of stuff that worked in the 80s. Just sadly didn't find its footing. But like I said, it certainly has now, thanks to video and DVD. And now it's on 4K, which I have my copy coming. So it's nice to see a nice little resurgence of this one.
Just you mentioned video there. When this was originally released in the late 80s, it was then brought out on home video. Now, not just video that you can rent. It was becoming a thing around this period where you could buy for quite reasonable prices. Videos basically to keep, like we do now, with DVDs and stuff. It was becoming more of a thing. Whereas originally, videos were really expensive to buy, buy a film. But they were becoming much cheaper. And I owned this, and I loved it as a kid. Yes, I mean, looking back as an adult and now for the podcast, there's certain parts of it are a little silly, let's just say. And you can notice the little flaws, but that's okay too. And we'll get to it all. But I owned this in video, and I love this film. And also, I would like to say my ex-wife is in this film. So she is. Shawnee Smith.
Shawnee Smith.
Yeah. When I was a 12-year-old boy watching this, let's just say Shawnee had quite the effect on me.
All right. So I was Leah Thompson. You had Shawnee Smith.
Yeah. Shawnee Smith and others. Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles, Belinda Carlisle. But yeah.
Funny, Shawnee Smith is fucking aged well. Her and Leah Thompson, they still look like what they look like in the 80s. And Shawnee Smith's obviously still big. She's still in the Saw franchise and all.
That's right. Apparently James Wan brought her on board the Saw franchise because he was a fan of her in this film.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she does have that girl power moment. We'll talk about it.
It's not the most convincing in the world, but yeah, we'll get to that soon too.
Yeah, in the 80s, I remember when I worked at a video store, and movies, when they came out, people think they're like Blu-ray or 4K now. You go and you grab it for 20 quid or $20, whatever. No, they were like $100 to buy.
Yeah.
It was one of the first films to come out cheap right away.
Yes.
For $20 was Beverly Hills Cop. Mm-hmm. My brother bought it for me for Christmas. My dad didn't want me to have it because of the swearing.
Right.
Sorry, Dad. We had no effect on me. Just don't listen to this fucking podcast.
this is basically a blue fucking podcast, with Ciaran's language. Yeah, obviously inspired by Beverly Hills Cop.
And then it kind of snowballed. I think Disney did a couple, but then Pretty Woman came out for cheap. That was a big one. And then it just snowballed from there. I think Titanic then prices dropped from $90 because as video rentals were still taking off, but they found that there was money in people buying their products.
Yeah.
So, and then you had used, Blockbuster always had 3 for $10. After they rent them, they sell them, and so you had this big, in the mid '90s, this big surge of people wanting to buy their movies.
Well, back in those days, I was a paper boy, and when I was delivering the papers on a Sunday, there was the Sunday supplement magazines, and at the back of them, there was usually ads which became a thing, for video clubs where if you joined their video club, you sent away, you got, as an introductory offer, you got 3 titles for a tenner, which was great. And I joined multiple times, much to my parents' dismay, whenever I couldn't wrangle out of the contract. The contract, plural. But yeah, I remember, I think part of the contract was you agreed to buy 6 titles over a year for like a tenner per title. Obviously, I couldn't afford that as a kid, so I was sort of locked into this contract. But I would have got films like this, The Blob, The Evil Dead, which was finally on band, although it was a cut version that was released, and Hellraiser, other films of that ilk. I remember getting The Untouchables as well, the Kevin Costner, De Palma, De Niro one, and a few other titles. Young Guns.
We had the same thing in the States called Columbia House.
Yes.
And you could do it movies or cassettes or CDs.
Yes.
Whatever it was.
Music,
yeah. All right, let's jump back into the Blob here. Now, the effects here are hit or miss. I think they're more hit than miss. Tony Gardner, who's got 182 credits to his name, did some wonderful makeup designs. He's known for he's still around today. Did a great film called Freaky not too long ago. Mm-hmm. He's done Lord of the Illusions, which I loved, Zombieland, Nightbreed, Army of Darkness. So the guy, and Darkman. So the guy's got some really good street cred. And Dream Quest Images, who was created by Hoyt Yeatman, his team was pretty much also got on board to handle more of the monster effects themselves. And they're the ones who they worked with Cameron. They're the ones who did that liquefied image from the Abyss.
Yes, and Terminator 2.
And so, a lot of talent went into this film. Mm-hmm. And including some up-and-comers. Believe it or not, Kenny Clark is more of a veteran, and so was John Shinaka. But you had Jeffrey DeMond, who we talked about quite a bit on this podcast with the great Christmas Evil. But he works with Frank Darabont all the time. We just mentioned all the films he's been in. And if it's a Frank Darabont production, Jeffrey DeMond's been in it, whether it's The Mist, Green Mile, and The Walking Dead. In fact, when Frank Darabont left The Walking Dead in a massive, massive dispute, sad ending to the Walking Dead franchise, losing Frank Darabont, Jeffrey DeMond, the most beloved character in the show, quit. He says, have me get eaten, because if I'm not working with Frank, I'm not working with you guys. So a lot of loyalty between those two. So it's nice to see that back in the 80s.
Jeffrey was also in the X-Files film, the first X-Files film, Fight the Future, and this film is like a who's who of character actors that pop up everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got Emil from RoboCop, the Melting Man.
Paul McCain plays Deputy Briggs. You got Candy Clark, who was huge in the 70s and 80s. She's kind of faded a little bit, but she still works today. And I think she was in one of my favorites, Blue Thunder, with Malcolm McDowell and Roy Scheider. We got Kevin Dillon, Matt's brother. Sounds just like his brother. Unreal. But God love him, Kevin Dillon isn't Matt Dillon. He's really not the hero.
I like his mullet.
Yeah, him and Shawnee Smith had to wear these wigs, and they begged Chuck Russell, please, and he's like, nope, put them on. He's like, fuck.
I mean, this is the most 80s film to ever come out of the 80s in so
God,
many ways. It's
that it is. I like the opening, and what they did with the opening, they kind of just give you shots of a small New England town or wherever it is. And
it's spooky.
It's spooky. It's very Stephen King. It's deserted. It's quiet.
Yeah, small town Americana. Yeah.
Exactly. And the whole purpose for this was and then we find out the whole town's in this football match. Which is what happened in small town USA. Every Sunday or Saturday when there's a big game, the local high school, everyone would get together to cheer on the home team. And the reason I like this setup is because we know they're going to be probably attacked here soon, so they're not going to have the means to protect themselves because they're in the middle of nowhere, and we also have a very small cast to work with, which I like in my films.
What I also like about the opening is basically the Donovan Leitch character is set up as always, it's sort of tricking the audience into thinking, he's obviously going to be this sort of square-jawed hero. But in fact, we'll find out that that's not the case, Yeah,
I think Chuck Russell, a lot of filmmakers do this. They like to a little nod to Psycho. So they'll put this main lead in that you think is, or at least would be one of the regulars. It's well set up because you think that Brian, the town 50s, 50-esque bad guy. He's harmless,
rebel weird,
but he's a bad guy. Where you've got he's Brian. He's played by Kevin Dillon, and then you've got Paul. Is that right?
Yes. I think it's
Paul. Yeah, Paul and Meg. And so you think it's gonna be these three, and Paul and Brian are always, which ironically enough, those are my brothers' names. Paul and Brian are always at each other's throats. They're
very opposite characters.
Yeah, you got the high school jock and you got the garage man.
Can I say as well that Donovan Leitch is the son of folk singer Donovan?
Yeah, I read that up. I didn't care, so I didn't mention it.
Yeah, who gives a shit? When David Lynch came here in 2007, he went to Queen's University to give a talk about transcendental meditation, although everyone in the audience just wanted to talk about Twin Peaks and his films, myself included. At the end of it, he brought Donovan out to sing a few of his hits, because Donovan is apparently into transcendental meditation as well. So there you go.
It's kind of a weird combination, Donovan and David
Lynch. Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. There. You get this. You really quickly get the sheriff's kind of hitting on Fran, who Candy Clark's character in the diner. Very nice and quick introduction to everyone. You got Paul and Meg.
Well
Meg
done.
likes Paul. He's the high school jock. You meet Brian, and the sheriff tells him, "You're almost 18. No more juvenile for you."
Yeah, juvie hall. No more juvie hall for you. Yeah.
You better be good. And those are the key characters. What this film does, and it does it well, it has quite a few misdirects. And what I mean by that, not everyone is safe here. And some of the deaths are off camera.
Yes.
And when you see one, my favorite one is the phone booth, and we'll get to it in a second here. Mm-hmm. You didn't see this coming, and it's not necessarily the person who's in the phone booth. But you set up all these kind of heroes. The Jeffrey DeMunn character is definitely set up to help Paul and Brian, as well as Meg, with what is about to happen.
They're all sort of stock, sort of cliched, sort of small town America characters. But in this type of story, that sort of works because they are sort of playing around with it a bit, And, the Kevin Dillon character, Bran, he's, I was sort of laughing because they set him up. When you first see him, he's such a badass. He's smoking, drinking, plus he litters. He just, throws the beer can. It's like they're telling us, yeah, he's a badass. He don't play by the rules. Unlike the clean-cut, squeaky clean, Meg and Paul.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the 50s. It's the Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah,
West Side Story. It's intentional. That's what the film does do well. Even though it's modern setting, the characters do play off like the characters from the 50s version.
Yeah.
Including some of the effects, and I think it's deliberate. I don't think they're bad effects. I think it's actually deliberate to play homage to the original.
What about Paul's rapey, creepy friend?
I'll tell you what, I forgot about this scene. The condom scene's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. No, that's
Scott.
That is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When Scott goes up to the pharmacist, give me condoms and some mints, whatever it was. And he runs into the priest, the reverend.
That's right. The reverend's brilliant, by the way.
Yes, he comes back full circle, big time.
Yeah, at the end. Yeah.
But when he's just this arrogant little prick, and the pharmacist when he's talking to the reverend, he's kind of embarrassed because he's talking to the reverend, and the pharmacist goes, "You want ribbed or regular?" Yeah. And he
blames his mate.
He says, "Well, I'm getting these from my friend Paul. He's such a perv, and he's so embarrassed to get this stuff, but he's a ladies' man." And then we find out Meg, the pharmacist's father.
Yes,
Meg,
and he puts the paper down and goes, "Ribbed."
Yeah, you see, and it was a nice little setup. It was a pretty good laugh.
Yeah.
If I was the pharmacist, I wouldn't let Paul. But I guess he does mention that he does explain the little misunderstanding to the father. He says that in the car.
Yeah, off screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise, he would not have let his daughter go with him.
Yeah. I must admit that Meg's family in general grate on me, especially the fucking wee brother and his mate especially.
Yeah, his mate was played by a young actor in the 80s. He did a lot of this stuff. He always played the brat.
Yeah.
He's pretty annoying. Yes. But again, I like the fact that they don't sell out. They kill the little fucker.
Good.
I wish they'd show it.
I was cheering the Blob on.
I wish they showed it.
Well, you sort of see the aftermath whenever he jumps out of the sewer and he's basically a male in RoboCop. The face all melted. But yes, I would have liked to have seen it more graphically because I'm a sick bastard.
Yeah, well, I hate little fucker. Now the Blob meteor, same thing as the movie. They do a little twist in it that it's actually military made.
Yes.
But the homeless man gets it in the hand like they did in the original. I do like when they rush him to the hospital, and then moments later, he goes, "What's wrong with him?" And he's just a pile of lasagna.
Yeah,
half his body. Such a cool little goo.
Did you notice who was playing the doctor?
Yes, I know he's a character actor, but I didn't catch right away. But
Jack Nance.
Jack Nance.
He was a big collaborator with David Lynch. He played the title role in Eraserhead. The main character in Eraserhead. He was Pete Martell, who finds Laura Palmer originally in Twin Peaks and stuff. But yeah, he was a big collaborator with David Lynch. And sadly and tragically, in real life, he was murdered.
He was? Jack Nance?
Yes.
Wasn't he in Salem's? No, he wasn't in Salem's Lot.
No.
But he's a character actor. He was in everything in the 80s and 70s.
Yeah, he was a good friend and collaborator with David Lynch. Like I say, Eraserhead, Twin Peaks and stuff. But yes, he was murdered in real life.
When was that happen?
I think it was in the 90s. I think there was some dispute in a cafe or something. It was with a couple of homeless people. It was a fight. I don't think that it was like a fist fight that he was attacked. And I don't know. Obviously, I don't know all the facts, but it appears that possibly they didn't mean to kill him, but he died of the injuries in this diner fight.
Yeah, I didn't know that. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you don't see me in any more movies.
Well, exactly.
Bad
that was
joke.
yeah. Technically, he was. I think it was murder because he died of the the injuries that he sustained. But yeah, weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, probably what they call it, involuntary manslaughter or something like that.
The perpetrators have never been caught.
Oh, really? Do you hear that story about? Oh my God, I'm gonna butcher the name. I just don't think I should even bring it up if I'm not gonna get the name right.
Yeah, I butcher names all the time, so don't worry about it.
There's a story. He was a Vietnam. He was a POW in Vietnam, but not an American POW. He was a Vietnamese POW.
Right.
It was about. It was in Cambodia.
Right.
And it was the story of the guy's name is what's it, Hang Nyor.
Right.
But anyways, it's called The Killing Fields. It has Sam Waterston,
Yes.
John
Yes, I know that,
Malkovich.
yeah. Cambodia.
Yeah. And it tells this story. He got the Oscar for playing this role, and it's about he played a Cambodian journalist.
Yes.
And he survived all this ordeals, and he went on. He won the Oscar in '84, and then he was randomly stabbed to death in L.A.
I think I've heard that.
That
sounds familiar.
outside of his fucking apartment, and they never caught him.
That sounds familiar.
And the guy that goes through hell and back, his true life story, and he comes to the States and look what fucking happens to him.
Awful.
It's just tragic, but we're going way off topic here.
Yeah,
but hey, that's what we do. What were we talking about again?
Mission Impossible 3, isn't it?
Oh yeah. So. This is where we kind of get where we're thrown off when Paul gets it. Now Paul's death's pretty disturbing when the blob just engulfs him like a blanket, and
the creature effects and the sort of the mutated body effects and stuff are brilliant.
Yeah, you can see it clear as day. It's almost like a clear sheet of acid has been thrown on top of him, and you can see his skin just melting and slowly pushing in his eyeballs, and his skin deteriorating from flesh color to white as he becomes more skeletal. And it's just fucking. I mean,
brilliant gore effects.
You can't touch these effects. I mean, practical is the way. Oh, so good.
Yeah,
so good. Yeah. I mean, these guys know these guys are A-listers in their craft for sure.
And very soon after, with Scott and his sort of girlfriend, where he's being creepy and he has the bar in the boot of his car for some reason and stuff. I mean, there's just some brilliant, absolutely top-notch practical gore effects here.
I never understood how. It doesn't last long. They arrest Brian for this.
Yes.
And even the sheriff's, at least the sheriff's smart. And he had Briggs, or Bragg. Is it Briggs or Bragg? I think it's Briggs, for RoboCop.
Yes. I just called it, to me, it was just a meal from RoboCop.
Yeah. Which his effects probably would have worked from RoboCop into this one.
Oh, yeah. It's actually a bit tragic that after having such great effects in RoboCop, he doesn't get the chance to do it again in this. But
he probably didn't want to. He's like, fuck, not again. So he actually gets a pretty good death. But yeah, they're kind of interrogating him. But at the end of the day, I was laughing. I was like, come on, why the fuck would they think he did this? This is impossible for someone to do.
But it's actually a well played scene.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This guy didn't do this. Let him go. So they were just crossing the T's and dotting their I's with them, where the audience would probably be rolling their eyes going, oh, God, why the fuck would you? And then they clear that they're not. They're just getting his side of the story. So Scott gets his comeuppance with the drunk girl, and I thought their scene could have been a little better. You didn't really get much gore in this one. I think what happened was because what they had to do was a lot of the screens are off kill, or you'll see the blob just jump on them or something and then cut away because they only had the budget for certain effects. So they put all their money into the effects they were going to show you of those deaths, and it certainly does pay off. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather have that fucking good, solid deaths and then some couple cutaways. Yeah. So we have the funds for those other good ones.
Why, with things like where people are like dragged away off screen or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, which you do get quite a few of, but there's some good carnage in this. Mm-hmm. I do like when the cook gets it, he gets sucked through the drain.
That's a brilliant one. And you see him, it's pretty, you can almost like hear the bones crunching and stuff as he's getting dragged down that sort of plug hole.
And then this is where we find out they kind of. So I kind of get confused. And Meg, and I don't think Brian knew, but Meg, they're in the freezer hiding from the blob. Yes. And then we see the blob go, ew, screams or screeches because it doesn't like the cold.
It backs away.
Backs away. Never brought up again. But Meg gets caught by the military. Wouldn't she have said, "Oh, by the ways, it's the cold. It can't handle the cold. This is
Which
why."
Which it does eventually.
No, at the end, she grabs a fire stinger at very last second for last chance. What the hell? Let's just go for it and spray this at it. Mm-hmm. When she could have just said, "Oh, by the ways."
Yeah, well, the plot wouldn't have happened, or sort of would have been a lot shorter anyway.
No, they could have said something. It goes, "Okay, we'll take that on board," and ignore her. Like, yeah, sure, you know what you're talking about. We know. To be fair,
the government people didn't want it destroyed anyway.
Yeah, but again, she still plants the seed. That should have been in there because, come on.
Yeah.
Her and Mullet Boy are going to save the day now.
I would say the characters are kind of quite annoying in an 80s sort of way. It's just this. I mean, I know they're sort of stock characters and it's all intentional and stuff, but I particularly, for some reason, Meg's family really annoyed me. The dad's not too bad, but what age is her mother, by the way, in this? Like fucking 90 or something? You know what I mean? She just
I thought the parent. I thought actually, I don't think they were annoying. I think it's the opposite. I think they're not in it enough to annoy me.
It's a bit too smug and cutesy and sort of, but I know it's intentional.
But I think it's
a juxtaposed with the Brian character who doesn't have a family and he's a badass and he's off the rails and stuff. I get it. Don't worry. But there's just like little touches where like her mum says like about her jumper, her blouse or whatever that's went through the wash and it's become pink or something, and it goes, "Would you like to borrow my sweater?" He goes, "Oh, would you, Mom?"
I think that's where the 50s comes in.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to do. And now what they should have done, it's R-rated, so they should have given us something that Brian has done to make him not really well liked, because all he does is play around with himself. He just tries.
He litters and smokes, and drinks, and that's it. That's all he is.
So I'm the asshole here then, because I don't smoke, but I'm a loner. I drink. Well, yeah, I'm not like an alcoholic. But I don't know. I think they could have given us something. The movie's 90 minutes. Give us 2 minutes of.
I have a confession to make. When I watched this as a kid, I thought, oh fuck, I used to think that as a kid watching this, that Bran was a very fucking cool character, and he sort of inspired me. Oh no,
That explains a lot, Trevor.
Thankfully, it didn't go as far as growing a mullet. That would have been just too far, a step too far. But I thought he was a cool, badass character, and as an 11, 12-year-old, whatever, 12-year-old, 13, I was sort of in a way inspired by him.
Yeah, the mullets. Man. Business in the front, party in the back.
And I wanted a motorbike, but my mum wouldn't let me get a motorbike because she said they were dangerous. They were too dangerous. And I wanted a motorbike, so I wanted to be rebel without a mullet.
So the phone booth scene when Fran gets it and she's engulfed in it, that would suck because there's nowhere for you to go. And she's engulfed in the blob. And then all of a sudden you see this great fake, this Jeffrey DeMond, the sheriff's face,
The sheriff.
come to the front and center
Of the glass.
of the glass, and it's just melted and gooey, and it looks just like him. And it's a great jump scare, and it shows you the fact nothing is saved because we just killed probably your main lead.
You killed the main lead. You killed the sheriff. You killed, the romantic lead for the sheriff. I mean, yeah. Later on, they kill a kid in quite a gruesome way, although I would like to have seen more. This is a pretty sort of ballsy film.
Yeah, and then another misdirect right after that one. So the misdirects are nice.
Yes.
There's a nice fake out where Brian and Meg are riding through the woods, and then you see these lights coming up, and it's like, oh my God, is this another alien thing or a meteor coming?
Yes.
Turns out it's just the military, the medical team showing up. There's a fun fake out, and it is really clever. Mm-hmm. It's when they get caught by the military, and you cut to these two idiots making out in the on the beach, and so they actually just got dumbed down. It's really cheesy. What's the man doing there, trimming his hedge in the middle of the night with a chainsaw? And then the guy looks up, and he's got a hockey mask.
Peeping Tom. Well, let's give him something to peep at.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Why is he wearing a hockey mask? It's not hockey season." And then as he says that, the grain of the film we're watching turns. And then and it pans back, and you find out we're in the movie theater watching the slasher film that two kids wanted to see.
It's called something like Toolbox Massacre or something, but it's obviously a spoof of the Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
It's a very clever scene.
It is
the way to do it.
Yep, totally threw me off.
And I'd seen this before actually, but I hadn't seen it in many years. But I forgot actually about this, but it's very clever.
Yeah, the theater scene is pretty fun. A couple of people get it. The projections get stuck to the ceiling,
and that annoying guy talking in the behind the kids.
I don't remember him.
No, remember the annoying guy? He's with his girlfriend, and he's saying, "Oh, and this minute she's going to run, and all this here."
Oh,
Next
yeah. Oh, he gets sucked up.
Yes, up into the air. Another sort of off-screen sort of death.
Now, when you see the blob. It the effects are more stop motion-ish, kind of like
superimposed.
Yeah, kind of like what they did with the Thing when it's revealed in the very end when it's coming through the floorboards.
The superimposed special effects certainly don't work as well as the practical gore effects.
But I think that's what I was talking about at the beginning. I think he gets away with it because of the fact that
it's a B movie.
It's a B movie. Yeah. And they are playing homage to the original. And I think they kept some of those effects in here. So, A, it could have been just an excuse for them for budget-wise. And B, that's it right there. I think that gives them a reason
homage.
To go, let's play an homage. And that way we can focus on the real good effects we can give out. And then pepper in a little cheesy, superimposed, stop motion, matte, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's scenes where it's clear... Kevin Dillon's running in front of a screen, and don't forget the motorcycle scene when he goes up they're in the tunnel, and he's how do we get past it? Hold on. I mean, Jesus, Kevin Dillon is the most. This guy's not a hero whatsoever. There's a couple of scenes where he turns into Rambo, like whenever he's being chased by the government guys, and it was set up at the start with the bridge where he's trying to jump the motorbike over the bridge, the broken bridge. He eventually does it, then he gives him like the finger, and he flips the bird, and it's after he jumps, and then, and later on where he does the loop, Evel Knievel, in the sewer. Yeah, he's basically, and then he turns into Rambo.
Yeah, so he does. And guys, don't get me wrong. I think Kevin Dillon's, he's a likable guy. He does some fun films. He was very sleazy and creepy in Casualties of War. He's
Platoon as well.
Oh, wait, it was the Platoon or Casualties of War?
He's in Platoon.
He's in Platoon. That's why I was.
I always remember his character at the end of Platoon, where after the big battle, he sticks a knife in his own knee,
in his leg, so he can get out of there.
Yeah, so we can get medically discharged.
Yeah, it was Platoon where he was discovered. That's right. And he's very good. I think he got not a Grammy. Tone. I can't remember what it's called.
Golden Globe or something.
Yeah, Golden Globe for. I think he was the agent in Entourage.
Yeah, I know he was in Entourage,
which he's very good in. So
I've always liked him.
He does fun stuff, but he's not leading man material. And
I mean, he sort of pulls it off here.
The effects and the supporting cast of of the veteran actors kind of make this, and Shawnee Smith and Kevin Dillon, anyone could have played these roles.
Yeah, exactly. And Shawnee Smith, as much as I love her, and as much as I did love her as a 12-year-old, watching this her acting is something. Let's just say I wasn't blown away by her acting.
So we find out that the civilians are expendable from Dr. Meadows.
I see this stuff with the government stuff. This all predates basically the X-Files a few years later. So it's I love this type of thing.
You can say that too, but you can also say the movie Outbreak. With Dustin Hoffman. Contagion. I mean, it's
an old trope, really. It's from the 70s and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
This has been happening. This theory is the crazies. Did this.
Exactly.
So,
Romero.
So it's cliche.
Yeah.
But
it's well handled here.
Yeah, we'll go with it. The kid gets it. I'd like to have seen the kid melt. That would have been cool.
We do get a glimpse of it, but
I didn't see it. I saw he got sucked in the water. That was it.
No. Well, certainly the version I watched, you do see him sort of all melted and but then quickly dragged into the water. But you don't see enough of it. Sadly, he's actually quite like in the glimpse we see it. He's quite like Emil in RoboCop. Whenever he gets melted. But we should have got more. Or maybe I'm just a sick fucker.
I love how they're in the sewers and Meg is trying to. Gets her brother out, and she has to go a different direction because she can't get through where he was going. And all of a sudden, Brian shows up in the sewer. Here you go, take my hand. Where the fuck he come from?
Rambo. Yeah. What's the deal with American sewers? Like, you get this in it and stuff where they're so... Obviously, it's to do with the way they were originally designed, but they're so fucking big. And you can, basically, have whole scenes in them.
Yeah.
The sewers over here are fucking, tiny and literally shit. You know what I mean?
I think city sewers are bigger.
Yeah.
And they do have to make it big enough for a person to go into. But, you're right.
They're not a council worker or whatever to go into.
Yeah, but they go down... And then they're going down this little hole, and they're tucked away, and they're barely getting down there. And then they go down there, they're in a fucking warehouse.
It's like a city, yeah. It's like its own city on its own.
Oh my god!
So it is. Over here, it's just like a grating with. They're just tiny. I don't know. I think the Romans originally might have built ours, but
I know. Every time we go in the sewers, I was like, "Where's Batman?"
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Kevin Dillon can fucking do motorbike stunts in this sewer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think small town USA would have the sewer systems as you would in New York.
Yeah,
so I don't understand why they're so. Yeah, they're pretty elaborate. But this is the worst part. So the doctor is going to keep them trapped in the sewer, so he puts the car on top of it, and so fucking. Dylan or Brian, whatever, he goes, "Oh, look, a bazooka." Okay.
Yeah.
And he takes the bazooka, and Rambo could not even do this. And with one hand, he points the bazooka to the top of the sewer. And fires it, and the car explodes and flies up. Now, I'll buy the bazooka doing that. Mm-hmm. But how the fuck can one person's one hand hold a bazooka, which is pretty much a mini missile?
Because he's what a guy. That's why. Because he's just super. And just by coincidence, Shawnee Smith just happened to notice the government guy who they were down in the sewer with just happened to have a bazooka and is strapped to his back. So yeah, I mean this is all obviously tongue in cheek sort of B movie silliness. James Gunn made a similar film a few years later, Slither.
Slither.
Yeah, but I mean, as daft as this is, where he turns into basically Rambo fused with the A-Team, it makes for a good scene and explosion.
I like Doc Meadows death when the thing just crawls into his suit.
That's right. Yeah.
I like to see like a lot of blood or imploding or something, but
Yeah,
it
could have been
still
gorier.
works. It still works. He deserved what he got.
Oh, he was. Yeah. I love when he says about talking about the townsfolk and stuff. They're expendable. A pure pantomime villain.
When you got the fucker has got like, because as all mad scientists do, the scientist assistant has grenades all over his body, and so when he gets it, and the inconsistency how big this blob gets is really weird. But now it's fucking huge. And it blows up the whole street, and it comes out of the sewer. And the so-called badass scientist frags with a death charge and doesn't do anything. And he then takes his 2 grenades as the blob is about to land on him. Yeah. And he unleashes the pins, and and then he falls, and then it falls down on him. But you see the 2 grenades go off.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real sort of hero's death type thing.
Yeah, cheesy death for an idiot.
But well, I mean, it's a sort of film that you get these types of deaths in it.
And then the Reverend, who was a completely normal human being, gets caught on fire for a real quick second, and they end up saving him. And I don't understand why he goes nuts at the end, but we'll figure that.
Because it makes for they were possibly setting up a sequel,
maybe.
But also it makes for a cool sort of final scare type thing,
So then you got Briggs, who gets it in the. He gets cut in half with the bookcase. I thought his death looked pretty good.
Yeah,
no gore needed, but it looked painful enough.
Yeah,
but I love this is where she goes. It's afraid of the cold.
At last.
Yeah, finally, thank you. And it's a ski village. It's a ski town. That could have been very useful information there. Thanks, Meg. You fucking idiot. You really could have. So here comes Brian with the snowmaker. Wow.
Which is set up at the very start with his mate who works in the garage, who just happens to be working on a snowmaker in July.
Well, no, they're getting ready.
Right.
For the ski season. In July.
How convenient.
So, yeah, and then I love the thing where she's all badass, Meg.
She turns into Rambo.
Yeah, she could come and get a fucker. You son of a bitch. And then she throws one of the death charges onto I think it was liquid nitrogen, whatever the snow, whatever the snowmaker's made of. And as she jumps, it's just the way she falls. It's hilarious. She
caught.
Jumps, she gets caught, and she flops. It looks like the stunt woman must have hurt herself. That looked painful.
Yeah, it was almost like as well. It's kind of funny because fucking calm down. You're not really fucking Rambo. You know what I mean?
Jeez. And then at the end, she just kind of belly flops on the side, and then Brian there to save the day, and then it just explodes and crystallizes it.
Yeah,
but that's a good question. One guy does say, and I think you say that in the original. We need to scoop this thing up before it melts. If it melts, does it come back?
Yeah, it defrosts, basically,
because it crystallizes. Can it come back?
I would assume. No, it does, because you look at the final scene with the Reverend in the tent, where it's obviously sort of like come back as a blob, where he's got it in the jam jar thing.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Now the Reverend's lost the plot.
Yeah.
Right? And
Armageddon.
They cut to he's like a traveling religious man now preaching Armageddon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he's got one eye now. He's half burned. And because he took the 2 pieces and put it in the jar.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. And it's alive. It's all gooey and stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. It can go through concrete. It can go through metal. It can go through doors. It can go through anything it wants and tear it to shreds. But it can't go through a glass.
It can't go through his jam jar.
Yeah. It can't go through the jam jar.
Aside from it being just like to make it for a cool sort of ending, I think that's more. You could arguably explain it away as because it's just wee tiny blobs. It needs to be a bigger blob to go through things, but
no,
it's bullshit.
It's pretty much acid. This thing.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah, it's meant to be. It's basically the acid blood of the Alien, from the Alien franchise. But I mean, but it makes for a cool ending. To be fair.
All right, so that's it for the Blob. Final thought there, Trevor. Go for it.
Silly, enjoyable, B-movie nonsense, but as I say, greatly entertaining. I have a lot of nostalgia and time for this film. I think it's great fun. You could sit and pick holes in it all day, but I'm not going to because it's just a thoroughly enjoyable film.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to. It's not as good as I remember. I remember seeing it in the cinema and I'm really enjoying it when I was younger. Watching it now, I was like, it's still good. It's still fun, but it's nothing like it was back in the 80s. It doesn't hold up as well.
I think actually, strangely, I think it does.
I know, and it's not crap. I mean, I still enjoy it. Guys, give it a watch if you love horror films. It's definitely one of the better ones in the 80s, especially if you're a fan of those films, like I said in the beginning. It's just, as through the podcast eyes, I gotta say it's lost some of its steam. But the kills that we do get that they put the budget on are still hold up. From the sheriff's death in the phone booth, to the melting man on the fucking gurney, to you pick it. I mean, the gore is quite good, and it gets away with the cheesy effects because we're gonna go with it's paying homage. What the fuck? We'll just go with that. And these guys went on to do great things. So kudos to Frank Darabont and the team, and Chuck Russell and the team, and so I think could have recasted Kevin Dillon. I know you don't need to because it's a B movie horror, like you said, and I get that. And maybe they just wanted the Chismado, so they didn't need an A-lister at this point. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of get that. And usually horror films are stepping stones for up-and-coming actors, so they gave him a shot at it. And the mullet had to go. I mean, what the fuck were they thinking of the mullet? Fuck, that mullet. I mean,
the mullet was more terrifying than the blob itself.
There's a scene where Shawnee Smith is going down the sewer and the blob starts coming through the holes and is grabbing her hair. So it's giving her pretty much a haircut. I wish the blob grabbed the back of his head and just got rid of that one part. Fuck.
They could have had a sequel where, Kevin Dillon's mullet, has a life of its own and then goes on to sort of grow and terrorize a whole town.
There's a film called Body Bags.
Yes,
it's an anthology horror. John Carpenter.
Yes, I know it. Yep.
And there's one with Stacy Keach, or is it Stacy Keach? And he wants hair. He wants his wonderful hair because he's balding. So he gets this magic goo, but the hair comes alive. That's what I felt like when I was watching this. I was waiting for his hair to come alive and attack the blob and save the day.
Yeah. Well, I would most definitely watch this film again than most of the crap we get these days. Now, it's not me yet again attacking modern sort of mainstream sort of cinema, but I don't know. Maybe there's nostalgia factors here, but I just really enjoy this film.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad little film. And guys, keep in mind when I say it doesn't really hold up as well, it doesn't mean it's not rewatchable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch Universal Soldier all the time, and it's kind of the same thing. Oh, this is badass. These two guys are the best. Yeah, go get them. And then you watch it now, you're like, oh, Jesus. But you still enjoy it. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the Blob. Mm-hmm. So there you go. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Next up is going to be the Meg 1 and 2. We're doing a double feature on that one because we kind of already did the Meg, so we're just going to kind of do a quick review on that one, but then quickly jump into Meg 2. It's going to be an all-in-one podcast for that one. And then we're going to do Barbie, and then we hit Halloween month and a half or something.
Yeah.
The new issue of Phantasm Goria is out now. It's available on Amazon all over the world in print. And, of course, locally, Forbidden Planet.
Yep.
And in Pennsylvania.
Yep. Phantasm Comics, and there's we're selling in quite a few select stores. Yeah.
Oh, so you're all over now. You're not just the one branch.
No. I mean, to be fair, it's more sort of one-off sort of independent stores.
That still works.
But also Forbidden Planet International, Belfast, and throughout the world from Amazon.
All right, there you go. That's it. That's all I have to say. We're going to end this one. This one went on for a little long time, probably because we went way outside the box quite a few times.
Again.
Yeah. But that's all we got. Guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good one.